everybody, Ollie here. Here's a little video about the last few books I've been reading, and an extra special thank you to today's sponsor, The Great Courses Plus. More on them in a bit. First up, Marjorie Garber's Vested Interests. This one is essentially a 300 and something page history of transvestitism. And Garber's central idea is that we can learn a lot about gender and the way people talk about gender by looking at people who dress across gender lines. There are some cool bits in here about transvestitism in Shakespeare, which obviously as an actor I quite enjoyed, and also some good stuff about clothes as signifiers of power, which I'd never really thought about before. But what I get from the book is that Garber seems to be taking everything she knows about transvestitism and just kind of throwing it at the wall and examining every single celebrity case she can find and not really digging deeper or making any more specific point underneath all that. I mean, the closest comparison I can make is almost to Zizek. And this isn't necessarily the book's fault, but the 1997 version I have is a little bit behind the times on its discussion of trans people, which gets a bit, I'd heard a lot about this book and about Garber's work, so maybe this is like when you show a younger person The Matrix and they're like, I don't get why everyone's so raving about this all the time, and it's because they're so used to everything after that being informed by it, so maybe that's the case here. But what I'll say is that if you're writing an essay on gender or on transvestitism, maybe a couple of chapters of this might be worth looking at, but otherwise, as a general reader, probably you don't need it. Contrast that with Arund Kundnani's The Muslims Are Coming. This book is absolutely fantastic. It's about radicalization, the way we talk about the radicalization of Muslims, the kind of discourses that surround radicalization and terrorism, the kind of studies that politicians and media figures lean on when they talk about radicalization and whether or not those studies are actually good science or not. One of the most interesting bits I found was his discussion of agent provocateur operations, where law enforcement agencies send somebody into a community that they're investigating and try to incite them into a crime. And that, to me, sounds like entrapment. And I think a lot of people have including myself, have a vague concept of what entrapment is, like the police bait you into committing a crime and therefore you can't be prosecuted for it. But what Kundnani shows, he's really done the homework, he knows the law and the legislation and examines specific case studies. What he shows is that it's actually really difficult to prove entrapment, especially if the jury are already convinced that you are the type of person who would do this kind of thing anyway, because they've been influenced by Islamophobic narratives in the media, and agent provocateur operations, he says, can end up going in a bit of a vicious circle. He really goes into quite specific detail that I can't go into here, because he really delves into the case studies and he knows the names and the operations and everything, so I would absolutely recommend picking this one up. It is brilliant. Before I tell you about my final book, and it is the favourite book I have to recommend to you this month, I want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, The Great Courses Plus. If you haven't heard of them, The Great Courses Plus are a subscription-based website with tons of educational videos on them, put together by some of the top professors from top schools all over the world, including Ivy League universities. Basically, they're the Netflix of education. They have over 7,000 videos and you can get unlimited access. Topics include biology, history, maths, photography, cooking, religion. They even have a video on ancient Egyptian philosophy, which I watched, and I learned that a lot of ancient Egyptian philosophy was done through mythology and storytelling, which is awesome. The Great Courses Plus is offering my viewers, that's you, a 1-month free trial. You could learn so much for free in that 1 month, and after that, plans start as low as $14.99 a month. So please visit thegreatcoursesplus.com/philosophytube, click the link in the description to start your free trial today. And last, but by no means least, the final book I have to recommend to you, Vladimir Nabokov's Arda. I don't actually read a lot of fiction, so when I do, it's a real treat, and it's a treat to read something that is as stunningly beautiful as this. Vladimir Nabokov, you may know, is a very famous Russian author. He's also the author of Lolita, a very famous book, and Arda is about a man named Van Veen who lives on an alternate reality Earth and who starts a lifelong, extremely passionate, extremely loving, graphically sexual, torrid love affair with his own sister, Arda. The level of detail that Nabokov goes into in building this world is just truly astonishing. Like, he describes so well and so beautifully the movement of individual hairs on someone's back. The smells and the sounds and even just the internal motions that he's describing are just so, it's like he's put life under the microscope. It's just amazing what he goes into and what he brings out and how real he makes the characters. Like, I feel like I know Van Veen. I will say that Van Veen is not an exceptionally pleasant person to know. Like, he's an anti-hero. He's a very surly, violent, bolshy, misogynistic, whiny, like Hamlet thinks this guy is whiny. And he actually kills a few, well, does he kill people? He certainly fights a few people and arranges a few deaths, and he beats a few people. He beats one man until his eye comes out. Oh, and he's also a child rapist. So, you know, anti-hero, emphasis on the anti. But it's testament to Nabokov that I wanted to find out what was going to happen to Van and Arda. I was really invested in the romance. The book is one of the most challenging reads I've ever had. So both Van and Arda are extremely intelligent people, like an IQ in the 200s, and they frequently slip into other languages, and not just slip into those other languages like French, German, Russian and Latin, but also will pun and make jokes and make euphemisms and double entendres and have kind of dirty talk with each other in those languages. So for instance, one scene, the central sort of sexy drama relies on you, the reader, being able to identify an anagram of the Russian word for clitoris, which is like quite a few leaps to be able to make to understand the scene that's going on there. The thing is though, because it goes into so much detail, even when I was missing things like that and subtle references to other works of art, I was still able to kind of follow the gist of what was going on and pick up the atmosphere and just soak up the world, to be honest. But if you're the type of person who has to get 100% completion on all the video games you play, and I know I am, then you probably want to get a version that has sort of annotated notes and translations in the back. But it is just gorgeous. Like, the world that Nabokov paints is amazing. I absolutely recommend this book, but I will say that I would recommend it because it's very much up my street. Like, it's very tailored to me. I love Russian literature. I like things that make me feel clever, obviously. I think a lot of people do. Probably if you watch the show, you probably like things that make you feel clever. And also it was given to me by someone who's very... It was given to me by... it's a romance story, it's a love story, and it was given to me by... and it's their favourite book, so it's difficult for me to separate my judgment of the book from my...
Get on with it!
I very much recommend this book, but that might be because I'm kind of madly in love with the person who gave it to me. And on that note, those are all the books I have to recommend to you. Thank you so much to everyone who sends me books from my Amazon reading list. I've got a stack of books like this high now that I can work through that all of you, the fans, have sent me, and that is so incredibly generous of you. So, Vested Interests was a gift from Dustin Simmons. Thank you, Dustin. And The Muslims Are Coming was a gift from Gorn Fensel. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And Arda was a gift from someone else who knows who she is, who will not be watching the show because she doesn't like it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see all of you eternal incestual lovers in the next video I make. Bye!